on the point of the self-control. All right, so self-control is a thing that we are dealing with every single day. Every single decision that we make is basically dictated by self-control. In Galatians 5 verse 17, there's a very nice example of self-control. It says the sinful nature wants to do evil, which is just the opposite of what the Spirit wants. And the Spirit gives us desires that are the opposite of what the sinful nature desires. These two forces are constantly fighting each other, so you are not free to carry out your own good intentions. Now, this verse reminded me of a social media post I saw ages ago, and it very much rings the same as this verse. And I would like to actually share it with you, and hopefully when you see two pictures of wolves, you will be reminded of this. It's an old Native American story. It's an old Cherokee told his grandson by the fire. My son, there are a battle between two wolves inside of all of us. One is evil, it's anger, jealousy, greed, resentment, inferiority, lies, and ego. The other is good. It's joy, peace, love, hope, humility, kindness, and truth. And the boy thought about it and he asked, Grandfather, which wolf wins? The old man quietly replied, the one you feed. So basically that brings me back to Galatians 5. So in Galatians 5, we basically have the two examples. One is that of the sinful nature. The other one is the fruits of the Spirit. And what is very interesting is when we look at the sinful nature, then it's very clear to see that these are all actions of when there's no self-control present. And they ring as follow: sexual immorality, impurity, lustful pleasures, idolatry, sorcery, hostility, quarreling, jealousy, outbursts of anger, selfish ambition, dissension, division, envy, drunkenness, and wild parties. Okay, this is now according to the NLT. Now it is very clear from these that there is a lack of self-control when you exhibit any of these traits. I won't be going into too much detail into every one. Instead of what I'm going to do is I'm going to group some of them together, especially like the sexual immorality, impurity, lustful pleasures. Those basically link up to the fruits of the Spirit in with regards to love. Now, I've made a bold statement once, and I'm going to make it again. Love is a thing that is not controlled by hormones. Yes, at first it does. But in a recent film that I've watched, a very good line came from it. The one character described that in the beginning, the infatuation that is shared between a man and a woman is like a bomb exploding. It's a lot of chaos and confusion, and what's left after that is love, where it's hard work, where it is putting in the effort, making sure that you are doing your best to look after one another. And it's conscious decisions that you make to love a person. It is, the words are now escaping me, but basically, if you decide that you do not love a person anymore, then that is that. Then the love has gone. But if you decided that you are going to show, be it your wife, be it a friend, be it your brother, unconditional love, that no matter what this person ever does to you, you are going to love this person and you're going to take his interests to heart. That's a conscious decision that you have to make. That is not bred by impulses and chemicals and neurons firing. That is a conscious decision that we have to take. Idolatry is very much the same as well. Where, and for just the sake of those that don't understand how far idolatry goes, idolatry doesn't mean that you have a statue of, say, Buddha or um, the golden statue of Nebuchadnezzar or whatever the case might be in your house, and you are praying to that, like most Hindus and Buddhists do. It can be an infatuation with sport, over interest in an hobby, basically getting too involved with certain addictions, for instance, like adrenaline. That can create an idolatry in your life where you are taking more time than you should spending on this specific activity, that it actually takes you away from loved ones, from a religion, and from yourself. Sorcery, okay, brother Barry van Heerden made a very good point one time, how it relates to today. That sorcery actually today is linked to drug abuse. Um, so giving in to uh, basically endorphins, amphetamines, anything that's basically has addiction connected to it. And once again, these are conscious decisions, both idolatry and sorcery, well, drug abuse, of actually getting involved to it. You have to physically make that decision that you are going to, I'm going to now just use an idolatry example here, that you are going to religiously go to every single Blue Bull rugby match or to every Chelsea soccer match, and you are going to wear the colors and you are going to cheer for them with all your heart and soul. It's very much the same with drug abuse. Um, it's so easy to get into because it's a conscious decision where you decide, oh well, what can go wrong? But what is one puff of this joint going to make a difference? What is a huff of this pipe going to change in my life? What is one pull of this relaxant going to do to affect the rest of my life? And at the end of the day, you find yourself needing rehab because of a conscious decision that you have made recklessly. Hostility is also connected to quarreling and jealousy. These are all basically in one bracket, because if you do not invite a person in and you are hospitable and forgiving and offering peace, then yes, you will then consciously make decisions to be hostile towards a person because he or she might be wearing the same outfit that you have to this very fancy occasion, or a friend of yours both of you had said, yeah, we're going to, silly example, but a challenge to have a flat abdominal and a six-pack by the end of winter, and your friend managed to accomplish that and you didn't. And then instead of deciding to be happy for this person, you decide to be hostile. You are jealous. Jealousy, as much as we want to say is an emotion, it is not. It is an active choice because you did not choose to show happiness for another person. You were saving up for last year to buy this brand new pickup truck, and someone very close to you managed to get it before you and enjoy the pleasures of this vehicle that you so desire. And instead of feeling happy for that person for actually accomplishing his target, you decide that this person has done you in and he has stolen your dream. And once again, it's a conscious decision. An outburst of anger, and okay, I'm going to put a big tick next to that. I'm still trying to control my anger feud sometime. And yes, it is an active decision to decide how you're going to react in the event where somebody has completely shocked you into a state where you cannot think straight anymore. And instead of just thinking that I need to stop and breathe, you physically have an outburst and they're shouting and seldom a swing of a fist. Now, selfish ambition is also a conscious decision as well as division. These are, I'm lacking a good example because unfortunately I do not have too much experience with that. But with division, I'll try and make an example where you are at a social event and you consciously decide to not speak to a person because you decided you don't like them, be it that they are too chirpy or be it that they seem grumpy or whatever the case might be. It's an active decision that you have made to not go and speak to that person, or even to create division in your own family. So you go and you coerce family members to team up against, say, an uncle or a cousin because you do not think the way that they are acting are appropriate. You heard that sentence. You have decided to do that. Drunkenness, where you just cannot say no to that one more drink before you go home sentence, which normally leads to the last point, well, parties. But it's very clear that all of these are linked to decisions. I just want to go back to sexual immorality, impurity, and lustful pleasures. We have this beautiful illustration in scripture of David standing on the roof of his palace, and then he looks down and Bathsheba catches his eye, and he then decides to have her brought over. That was not a hormonal thing. He made an active choice to invite her over to his palace. That is such a clear image of how we do not think and when we lack self-control. Now, Galatians does the opposite of the spectrum. And this time I've put it in an organogram. So according to the verse, then the fruits of the Spirit offers us love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. And I've made the point on Sunday that without self-control, the rest are basically useless. Okay, because once again, I have already explained the thing about love, but let's look at the rest. Okay, if you do not decide to be content in your life, that you are happy with your lifestyle and the possessions that you have, and with your wife, your children, your family, then you will never have joy if you cannot find that contentness. And we are told in Scripture that we need to be content. If and it kind of is a snowball effect, because if you cannot be content, then you're not going to be peaceful, to be quite honest, because you will constantly be rushing to the next thing. And you kind of can see Solomon's verse here of everything is a rat race, and it's all just like dust in the wind at the end of the day, because you are trying to rush from the one thing to the next thing that will offer you happiness, and you will not get that inner peace just because you have decided not to have that inner peace. And patience. If we, for instance, get irritated because of a person's voice, and then we're already impatient with this person, it's like, just tell me what you want so I can get you out of my hair scenario. Whereas you can decide, okay, this person's voice is at a pitch that is intolerable to my ears, but let me just listen to her words or his words instead of the tone of voice. A silly example, but it kind of happens a lot in my household. I'm a little bit bad in expressing my feelings by voice, so quite often it is mistaken that I'm actually angry or irritated, where I'm actually quite the opposite. And then yes, patience kind of seems to fly out of the window very soon after that. But I've learned a sentence where I realize, okay, the tone of voice is completely wrong. They're not listening to my words. And then I have to say, okay, listen to my words and ignore my tone of voice. And then after those words have been spoken, then the tolerance level in the house becomes more, well, tolerable. Now, it's so funny that if you make that decision, that this person that annoys the living daylights out of you, that you are just going to humor them and listen to them, how quickly you seem to have more patience and how less irritable you are after that person has left your presence. And the same with kindness. It's and I don't want to get stuck on parables here, but we have that parable of the Samaritan, where a priest and a Levite walked past this man beaten half to death, and they could not show kindness to this person. They decided they are too important and too much in a hurry to help this person. Just fine. Sorry, we had a bit of a technical glitch here. So getting back to the story of the Levite. So they decided that they're not going to be good towards this person and that they will not show any kindness to him. And that a mere Samaritan then came and he showed so much kindness and so much love towards this half-beaten man. A very good expression of how that is conscious thought. The same with goodness. Same parable can be applied to that. With faithfulness, and I want to go back to the story of Bathsheba and David's for faithfulness, where you can once again see that David made very poor choices and had lacked very much self-control. Remember, I said he was a good example, but he was not perfect. He had his flaws, and everyone knows this was the biggest one, where he then sent Bathsheba's husband to the front line to make sure that he doesn't come home again. And that is not showing faithfulness to that man. He was not making a decision that this is another man's wife, I will be faithful to them and just leave them alone. No. He decided elsewise. And it's the same with our friendships and our work relations and even in our religion, that we decide to be faithful towards God or towards our partner or towards our friends. And by this, I mean promises that is made. Not even that you say, I promise I will do it. It's just a mere, yes, we can arrange to have a meeting, or yes, I'll come and help you move, and then you simply just unfeatured for it. That is all connected to faithfulness. And it's active decisions that we make to take us away from that. The same with gentleness and with, at the end of the day, because if you can't be gentle in a bad mood, then you can't be gentle at all. Because that's where it takes the biggest willpower, is that day where you just got out of bed with the wrong foot and you're already scratchy, you're already ill-tempered, and now you need to be gentle towards other people. These are all things that is built on that foundation of self-control. If we do not exercise self-control, then it's pretty much impossible to practice the rest of it. So how do we practice self-control? There are so many articles on the internet of how you can practice self-control by building your own confidence and being more patient. But at the end of the day, it's all summed up into these three actions, where you just have to stop, think, and then act. You come home to find that your wife has scratched your brand new car against the garage door. Now you have to both fix the car and the garage door. Now, 99% of men around the world, first reaction will be shouting, "You stupid woman, how did you manage to do this? The car's got parking sensors, how did you get into the wall?" Instead of just stopping, thinking, "Honey, are you right? Is there something wrong? What happened?" It is with basically anything, like the temptation of hunger. You know, your wife has now prepared you supper at home, but you're on your way to in traffic, you are hungry, and you need to put in petrol in the car. And as you walk into the garage door, the fireman's corner calls your name secretly. And then instead of practicing self-control and just walking out the door again, you do go and grab the pie at the end of the day.
because it's a conscious decision that you make. Yes, there is a need, but you can decide, okay, I can actually just get a bottle of water and drink it on the way, and that will just soothe the hunger feeling until I get home. Meanwhile, you eat the pie in the car, you get full of crumbs, and then by the time you get home, you are already so satisfied that you do not want to eat the meal that your wife has spent half the day irritation and fighting and quarreling and all of the rest of the sinful nature. But in any case, but I would actually like to open up this part to discussion of how can we practice self-control. And I want to just put in 3 characteristic names that I kind of thought of while I was thinking of this whole self-control issue. One of them is Daniel, and I can let you decide where and what and how Daniel. The second is Nehemiah. And then the third that I want to throw out into the audience is then, well, it's 3 people, so it's very hard to say a third, but that will be then Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And Lalali brought up the 4th one, Jesus. So I want to put this now out to discussion of examples that you can now quickly think of where those names have practiced self-control, and also how can we apply that to our own lives.